What's happening, everybody, and welcome to Internet Dads. I am especially excited for this episode because joining Spencer and myself, it's the wonderful, a dear friend of mine, Flavio Briatore. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for finding the time. This is going to be, this is like it's a new experience for us because this will be the first time that we've ever been on anything together and not had an argument.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean,
the night is young. The night is young.
It depends. I mean, I do rate you as a parent. I think I've been listening to what you guys have been saying on this podcast.
Not as a pundit, though.
No, he's useless at that. Like, I don't know how he's become so successful. It's incredible.
That's incredibly generous. But how are you first?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Boiling hot in London. How are you? How you doing?
Have you ever had one of those weeks where it just doesn't go your way? Where you just kind of hold your hands up and you're like, okay, it's not my week. I need to get to the end of this week, go to bed, wake up a new day, and hopefully don't die between now and then.
I feel like you have these weeks on an almost weekly basis.
No, but this was beyond. I've never known anything like it.
What happened?
Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, including getting my phone nicked, which I cannot tell you the upheaval that causes.
So I got to find out what happened here. Where was it?
It was an enigma wrapped in a mystery. It was honestly, it was one of the craziest things. I knew full well that the phone was at home, or at least at last point of knowing where it was at home. So I went to pick up Clementine from school, and she's obsessed with this song. You got this song in your life, yeah?
Which one?
The kids seem to love. It goes, do you know it?
Oh, I have heard this.
Yeah, kissy face, kissy face. Right. So that song is like permeating my brain because every time I get in the car, I have to put it on. Clementine's got a playlist. I have to put that song on, play it over and over and over. So anyway, we're driving home from school and I play that song. And I know I play it because I bumped into my neighbour walking where I live and it was blaring out and she was singing out the window. So I knew that the phone was home because the song wouldn't have played otherwise. Anyway, get out of the car, her mate's there. Immediately, I'm it for British Bulldog, so we're playing. Time to go in, everyone in. Phone's gone, can't find the phone. Victoria starts logging in, doing this like Q from James Bond, like Chloe O'Brien in 24, like logging in.
Find my phone
and
thing.
finding the phone.
Yeah.
So she goes, listen around, everyone listen, you'll hear a phone. Anyway, didn't hear it. She then gets a map up and the phone isn't where we live. It's somewhere else. I was like, but it was here, it had to be here. We then start checking the cameras, right? And this is mad. In fact, I'll be able to show you these. And by the time this goes out, if anybody watching on YouTube, I'll be able to send you these pictures for the edit. We start like looking at all the cars that have come in because the phone was at home. We knew it was at home. Couldn't find it anywhere. The phone's now gone. I've had to go out and try and trace his phone. So I've got my mate to drive me. We're now following the phone, following the signal, trying to get it back. Victoria is like, you can leave a note on the screen that says something like, 200 quid, no questions asked, call this number. They didn't. But the phone was at home. So how is it now not at home? Do you know the bottom line of this ridiculous mystery? We're tracing it, and obviously these people have got panicked because we've traced it and it's now not moving. It's on the side of the road. Got to the side of the road, you'll see a picture, and it is completely battered. They've just battered the phone because I think that they thought they could nick it, panicked because they would have seen the messages coming through. Right, let's go out. I'm texting my mate. Let's go out. Let's go and find it. I think they panicked and just beat the phone to bits because they were worried. Nicked my phone case, that glorious phone case.
Do you think they took it out of your house?
No.
I
we
think
now
your
know
car
what
had
happened.
the song already in it.
No.
That's why it played.
The mystery was solved, and I can show you the footage. We recently had cameras installed. So cameras have been installed around our way, and it solved the mystery. Guess what happened? I've got out of the car, and Clementine has absolutely no respect for my time, right? So she gets out, flings the door open, jumps out and starts playing. In the car she leaves the door open, she leaves her school bag, she leaves her water bottle, she leaves her school hat. I have to get everything. Part of me getting everything and then having to be it for British Bulldog, I've then just put the phone on the roof of the car and I haven't thought anything. Victoria, for the first time this year since Pandora was born, that night, how unlucky, is going out to meet her mate for a pizza. So she's gone driving off, and this is the footage that I can show you. The car driving out, you can see my phone on the roof of the car.
So did anyone nick your phone?
It never got, no, it did get nicked. What happened was...
I think it just came off the car.
No, it fell off the car. No, but it was moving. It was moving, and the case was nicked, and the cards were nicked.
They came for the case. I don't blame them.
They came for the case. But the worst thing is I've lost everything on the phone, which is so much ag. Pictures, gone.
Yeah.
All of my double-click pay, gone. It's a real nightmare.
Well, that is really annoying, but it could have been avoided, Rory.
It could have been avoided if Victoria had looked on the roof of the car before she set off to drive.
But even after you lose your phone, it could have been avoided. You could have got those pictures back. And that is the perfect time to tell you about today's sponsor, Proton Drive. So Proton Drive is secure cloud storage to back up any of those important files, including photos. You could have still had the photos if you used Proton Drive.
This sounds fantastic. And what, do you edit photos on it as well?
It's not an editing app. Think of it more as a vault. Yeah, I mean, the best thing I think about Proton Drive is it's end-to-end encrypted.
Which means what? Literally nobody can see it.
Not even Proton Drive can see it. They can't see it. Photos of your kids. We want to protect our kids' identities. You never show photos of your kids' faces.
No.
I never talk about their names. Proton Drive are on the same sort of, thinking as us. They're protecting us.
And what, can we still share the pictures with our family?
Yeah, it's allowing you to do that, but you're keeping those photos safe. You know you can get them back if the worst happens. But it's that protection that I think is really important. Also, there's no ads, there's no tracking, and there's no scanning. So your personal content is safe and secure.
This does actually sound brilliant because this means that they don't have access to it. There's nobody to see it.
Yeah.
It's just a vault. It's totally encrypted, and your stuff is therefore totally safe, and nobody is trying to gain access to it or see it.
Yeah, and I think that's important these day and age. It's quite transparent and refreshing that companies come out and said it, because you do never really know what's happening with your data on a lot of these apps and services now. So yeah, very much looking forward to using Proton Drive.
Sounds great. Because also, all the time, whenever you scan, you don't really know what you're doing, do you?
Yeah.
So if you have anything sensitive, any pictures that you want to protect, presumably your children, this sounds like the perfect app to do it.
Well, there you go, guys. Check out Proton Drive with the link in the description and the pinned comment. And importantly, with our link, you can get yourselves an exclusive offer. People requested Flav to come on as well in the comments.
That's
have been saying,
nonsense.
No,
No,
they
it's 100%
generally have. They generally have.
100%.
Really?
We'll obviously get into it as well, but particularly, and we've got a really good dad diary we're going to get into later as well. But obviously, you're a step parent,
Yeah.
which is something that is it's a massive facet of parenting. And you've mentioned your own experiences, in that world as well. And I think I have zero in that respect. I've only have my mum and dad in terms of my upbringing, and obviously my kids are my biological kids. But I'm really fascinated to know, because obviously, I mean, the way the world is as well, it's something that is a growing industry. It's not an industry, but it's a growing trend, isn't it? And more and more kids are having to, understand a different version of the nuclear family.
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
like.
Modern family. So, Flav, you've got 2 stepkids that you just refer to as your kids.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, like, I've got two.
No. From this point going forward, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to amplify the step every time. I'm just going to say your kids, but just so that everybody's aware of
but
it.
I do.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think it's really important that, obviously, from the very beginning, since meeting the 2 kids, which one was 4 years old and the other one was 6 years old when I first came into their lives. But that step thing is really important. It is to me, and it should be generally, because they have a dad, right? And there was a relationship before which created them, which is really, really important. And one, it's not a step parent's job to supersede the role of the biological parents at all. Certainly not the dad in my case. So I do. I think it's important, but you don't. I mean, for the purpose of this conversation, it's fine. Yeah.
And so you met your now wife when she had 2 kids, 6 and 4.
Yeah, I met her in Lisbon at a festival called Nos Alive. We were in a tent watching, I think it was Subtract, something like that, and I just saw this woman across the dance floor, and we locked eyes, and that was that. Really, there was other things going on as well, but it was a great night. But she told me straight away, I've got 2 kids. So whether she saw husband material in me immediately.
Unlikely.
So how old were you?
Unlikely.
I was in the right state at that time as well.
So how old were you at that point in your life?
33.
You were 33, and what was your initial response when she comes out quite early doors with the comment about having children?
Well, I was in a mental state at that stage to be really open to everything. But I was also ready to kind of move into a new part of my life. But ultimately, I didn't really concentrate on the fact that she had kids at all. I was into her.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a moment where I thought, I can't pursue this because she has 2 children. And it wasn't like 2 days later she told me, and it wouldn't have mattered either way. But so, yeah, my reaction was a non-reaction.
Yeah,
it didn't matter to me at all. But
Although at that point, you didn't know that it was going to develop into being your wife. You didn't know that it was going to be majorly serious. At that point, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, at that point you fancied her and nothing. That was the point.
Yeah.
It wasn't about. I could see the fact that you've got children. It was like, what you're doing now.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was it. It was just that moment. We was at a festival, so it was, kind of hedonistic and about enjoying that moment. Yeah, the kids weren't really a part of it, but it kind of relationship did develop relatively quickly, and so there were conversations about the children quite early on.
So you met. So this is all in Portugal. You then have a good time in Portugal. You come back to England. You decide to see each other again.
Yeah.
And at what? Can you remember how long into that?
Yeah.
So you would have become a couple.
Yeah. I mean, we were together, but it was obviously very early days. So you don't know how serious. You don't know what's going to happen.
And then you got introduced to her children.
So there was a conversation, just for the record, like before doing this, I had to speak to my wife and say, "Are you comfortable with this? It's going to go on the internet." She was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." So. But I don't know if she thought that she would feature so much early on. But
she'll stop. We're going to get beyond that. But
no. I mean, she's a big part of the story. They're her kids, right?
Did you have to beat up an ex? Or did you get beaten up by an ex?
No, there's no chance. I wouldn't have a chance. Like we're from West Country, and he's like farmer stock.
He does big shoulders.
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah, I mean,
some little chavvy out of North London gets run over.
So I've never been much of a fighter, right? So I've always been quite good at being tactical in approaching these things. And weirdly, actually, I know we're getting off topic here, but my parents separated when I was 5. There was various other relationships that separated in my family, and that's why I've got like 5 brothers, 3 half brothers, step brothers, got everything there. So I've got lots of family breakdown. And one of the issues when I think growing up was that often there was like a tense atmosphere. There were the issues between different parents and whatnot. Nothing too extreme, but as a kid I felt it. And one of the things I really wanted to approach when deciding to be a part of this family was that tension wouldn't be there, not from my perspective anyway. That me being in this house was never going to be anything other than a positive thing for these kids, and that's because of the things I saw and witnessed growing up. Not directly my step parents, but it's difficult. You got so many different attributes, 2 different families coming together, kids coming together. That isn't an easy dynamic to get right.
It's very difficult to navigate when you're this person in the conversation as well. When you're the 2 kids and the mum, you're the 4th person in the room. It's tricky. Do you remember the first time you met them?
Yeah, I do remember them. So after a couple of months, I remember having a sort of heartfelt conversation with the missus, and she was getting kind of emotional on the phone and says like, it's going to get to a stage where you've got to meet the kids and stuff. And she was worried about that because she wasn't sure if I wanted to. So this was about 4 months in. Bearing in mind, I'm living and working in London. I'm seeing her every other 2 weeks, maybe every 3 weeks. And she wasn't sure whether or not it was something that I wanted to do. And then I just said to her that I'd love to meet them. And then after about 6 months, I met them. They picked me up at a train station in Swindon, and we got some
slugs.
We got some
Swindon lot.
The Swindon lot, yeah. And we got some chips, and we went home. And I remember the boy, he was only little, he was like 4 years old, just sat next to me on the sofa. Vividly remember this. And it was like, oh, this is nice. I mean, it's weird, but it's nice. And from then, I was pretty much an ever-present for over the last 10 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And has it always been quite smooth sailing? Did they respond well to you? Do you remember how that went?
Yeah, they did. I mean, they're super relaxed and chilled out kids. Well, they're now adults. We're moving towards adulthood. But their mum's really relaxed and laid back. Like the most laid back woman I've ever met in my life. Which is part of the reason why I married her, is because she makes my life and everyone's life so easy. She never complains about anything. I can do whatever I want. I can watch as many football games as I want. I can disappear and go to my office and there's no complaints. She's just so laid back, and the kids, they're like that as well. They're laid back. So there's never really, I mean, there's been issues, don't get me wrong. And it's difficult to navigate those issues in terms of like discipline and stuff like that.
That's exactly what I was going to come on to. Because when things are going well, I imagine that your role in this is quite an easy one. It's when things are going less well, which is a natural passage. It's every kid's responsibility to play up at some point.
Yeah.
It's quite, does it, at least in my opinion it does, but maybe it doesn't, put you in quite a tricky position. Can you tell them off? Or are you risking, you're not my dad, as a reply?
Of course, but I made that clear from the beginning that I'll never want to replace, I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm here to be in a relationship with your mum, and you're a part of that, and we're actually a group now. We're together, and actually, you know, like the most amazing thing about meeting my missus is the fact that the 2 kids came with it, because that was like an additional thing that I never anticipated, never wanted really at the beginning or before I met her. But now so grateful that they're a part of it. But to answer your question, Rory, there was a while where I wouldn't I wouldn't be involved in the discipline.
You've got to try and earn your position to be able to do that, and it be genuine.
Yeah, I mean, because if the bloke who's not here might not well be here in a year, like how dare you say anything to me? That would be my feeling. Do
you think it was helpful that they were the ages they were when you came in, as opposed to coming in with, say, teenage kids meeting you for the first time?
Yeah.
Different challenge.
What do you know about that, Rory?
No, I don't know about that, but it just wouldn't work going into
so difficult.
It'd be so difficult.
So difficult.
You would get so much pushback.
Yeah, and because
6-year-olds are nice, man.
6-year-olds, they're called
16-year-olds, however.
But it's weird though, mate. Right, and you guys, I know your kids are young, but so I've been with them from 4 and 6, and they're now 15 and 17. The challenges never stop. You think we'll get past this bit and it will be fine, and then they get 7 or 8, and then there's different things, and as they evolve. And then you slowly come to realise is that there will never be this moment where everything's just fine.
That's interesting. That's really interesting, because you know what, the way that I'm feeling at the moment, particularly with Pandora, who's 4 months, I'm kind of going, just get through this. You know, get to 6 months. Just get, and then with Clementine, it's like, well, once she goes to school, that'll be it. It's plain sailing then.
Yeah.
And you are right. Every new tempo just creates another whole.
I think once you become a parent, you basically got a ticket to worry. It never expires. But I think maybe what happens, and again, I can't speak because I haven't got to this point yet, but I think there's certain things you can look forward to. Like, for example, we've just got to a point now where our 1-year-old's just started doing some nursery, and obviously our oldest already goes. So we have certain days of the week where we actually can plan to not have kids, as in to do something. That was a big moment for us once we went to the second child and had that time again. So it happens when they get to school, and then obviously when they fly the nest and they're adults, you're still going to worry, aren't you, about certain things, but you have some time.
But do you know what I reckon Flav has got that we don't necessarily have? Which just, depending on how much you appreciate sleep, this is going to either resonate with you or you're going to think I'm insane. But I reckon, however hard the challenge is, whatever you're dealing with, even the trickiest experience that you've had, at least you've done it with a kip.
Yeah.
Because I can't function at the moment. And I just think, if I could sleep, whatever was presented to me, I could handle. But obviously, the problems get more severe. They get steeper. Dealing with the pitfalls of a 17-year-old is almost incomparable to anything that I've had to experience as a parent. How are you finding those issues? Like TikTok, for example.
That's mad. That's. I mean, firstly, I missed all the bit where they didn't sleep. Right, I missed all the baby
nappies,
stuff.
All that stuff.
But I also feel like I missed the most special bits as well, because I never had kids. Obviously, I've only got the 2 step kids. Not only, but so I missed out on that. That what must be magical, also very difficult, and I'm sort of craving that. I'm craving this moment in the future when the kids are old enough and they've done their celebrating and done that they have grandchildren, and then I'm going to get to experience that. Yeah, but there are things. I mean, as they get older, mate, you just, like, as a boy, you worry about the boy, you worry about getting caught up in stuff. And there was a moment, right, where I dropped them off to school for the first time, secondary school, and I was thinking, thank God that ain't my school. Like, thank God that isn't Highbury Grove.
Right, yeah.
Like, when they were walking in, the boy was walking, and I'm like, he's going in there, but he's safe. Whereas my school growing up, it was hell, man. It was just the most violent, dysfunctional way to learn about anything. You learn street smarts and how to avoid trouble. That's about it. anyway, they went in there, and the things I would worry about, I found out that it was actually the things that we growing up had to deal with in terms of like, you know, Holloway wasn't the nicest place, and you had to you learn how to sort of read situations and genuine violence happening at school. And then so I was projecting the things that I would worry about for myself going into school to like the boys. So you as a parent, I've found you create issues that aren't there based on your own experience.
So what those, for him, there'll be other pitfalls, but they weren't the pitfalls that he was worried about.
His pitfalls are that he just doesn't enjoy the educational environment, but he's not worried going into school like I was sometimes. So, yeah, you worry about that as a boy, and then getting caught up and, you know, fighting and things like that. But the girl, you kind of, you know, you might worry about boyfriends treating her badly and that kind of stuff. You get into a certain age
now. Do you know what's interesting, Flav? Spencer's got 2 boys.
Yeah.
I've got 2 girls.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that I've got it easier. Spencer's got a quote where he contests this.
Well, my friend, you probably know him, Jimmy Conrad, he used to always say he's got 2 girls as well. That if you've got a boy, you have to worry about 1 penis. If you've got a girl, you've got to worry about 1 million penises.
Yeah, don't.
But I think having girls is so much easier, because I think boys are just so much more trouble. You've now kind of lived both.
Yeah.
At an older age, does either give you more concern, more cause?
Surely personality comes into it though as well. It's not just like a boy does this and a girl does that. There's going to be a certain type of each.
Yeah.
I've got to say with our kids, we're lucky because they're just sound human beings first and foremost, and generally, you know, the biggest challenge for the boy at the moment is that he's not going to necessarily do well at school, but he will find his way and it'll be fine. I've got feelings about secondary school environment that I didn't have before, on watching your kids go through an educational process that you think doesn't serve certainly the boy, then that is frustrating. But yeah, in terms of the worries as they get older, certainly for me, the girl picking right relationships and not finding some dickhead, because that's going to be difficult. And what you realise as well, and I'm going all over the place a little bit, boys, but at a certain age they stop listening to you.
As well they should though. It's a rite of passage.
It feels too young.
Keep
listening to me for a bit.
Yeah, and they listen to everyone else as well. That's the frustrating thing. I like can remember me being like this, where the last person I'll take advice from would be like the people that really care about me, and yet some, you know, sort of periphery figure, for whatever reason, you think they're the coolest person that month. You listen to everything they say.
Well, absolutely.
But they are your mistakes to make. We all have mistakes in our lives that you have to make in order to become the person that you are today. You are the person that you are formed into today exists because of the foolish decisions that you've made previously. And I think as long as you keep them within the realms of normality, it's part of it. Like, particularly with your boy, from what I'm picking up, not academia isn't necessarily for him.
No.
It's important to make those mistakes, to fail that exam, to whatever, because then ultimately that should open a door into another.
Well, I think it's also important, you know, we've spoken about this and we're looking into like homeschooling, alternative education stuff for our own interests and our kids. And I think it's whatever route you go down, we're always really careful, I think, on this pod when we talk about, like, we're not saying we're right and someone else is wrong. We're looking at options that might work for our family. Your family might be completely different. But I think because the majority of kids do go through a traditional education system, there is this unconscious bias in society that, like, oh, if you can't get on with it, something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And that has to be we have to get rid of that as a society, because, you know, even because of the framework of his education that your lads had to go down, we're talking about all these terms, and it's completely not like naturally, but in negative sense. But actually, there's probably some things that your lad's great at, and he's just not getting. Maybe he's not getting the chance or opportunity to do that. And in a properly functioning society, we should be saying, "Oh, my lad's so good at X, so good at Y." But we always look at it within the traditional testing, and, you know.
Yeah, unless you're like, if you can afford to put them in a school that is created for to work with young people that don't excel in traditional education. Most people aren't in that fortunate situation, but there are schools out there that do work with kids that don't like or can't exist in terms of the academic structure. But schools also have a really difficult job because they have to teach everybody, and not everybody will fit in. Whereas my girl, she is academic. The boy from the exact same family, exact same parenting situation, exact identical, and they get on with each other, and they're perfect, but completely different approaches to school and pretty different abilities. And I believe in this sort of second child syndrome as well. I don't know if you've ever spoken about this on this, but the second one is always a bit mad.
Yeah.
He's always a bit like, give you a little bit more grief. Not that I've had to experience this too much, but the first kid tends to kind of be studious and listen to what you say, and the second kid wants to test the water a little bit.
Yeah, is that what you've got? Yeah.
No comment.
No, I haven't. I'm conscious of them watching this. It's a really awkward situation.
There's a balance.
Well,
there were different challenges. They're different, and they're not challenges like problems. They're just conversations. So no.
Have you passed on? The stuff that when you said that you kind of crave the stuff that you see as being beautiful, the baby phase, and the stuff that you would naturally hand on. Have you done that? Are they Tottenham fans, for example?
No, they don't really like football.
Not.
No, which I'm fine with.
Do they call you Flav?
No.
Well, I've hit something here, haven't I?
Yes.
What do they call you?
Oh, fucking hell. I wasn't anticipating this coming up. Oh man, they call me. You're the last person I want to know this.
Well, whatever it is, I'm going to start calling you.
Yeah. So they call me Foxy.
Oi, because of your dashing good looks.
No, of course not. Look at me.
Foxy.
It's a long story.
Foxy Brown. You like Foxy Brown?
No, a long story. When I met her mum, their mum, I had a shirt that I used to use. It was like an icebreaker when talking to birds.
Okay.
Or women, sorry. And it was just get a conversation going,
So
which
what
I'd
was
use
the
it.
shirt?
It was do you remember Fake London?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a Fake London shirt with a dog on the front of it.
Right.
But everyone was so mashed at this night, they thought it was a fox, and so they kept saying, "Go to the guy with the."
I see the guy with the fox.
The fox, yeah.
The guy with the
That
fox.
name has stuck.
I'd let you use your imagination, yeah. So that stuck. So that her mates and her mates call me that, and the kids call me that.
Everyone calls you Foxy.
Yeah,
You
in
never tried to
Wiltshire.
nip that in the bud.
Of course, I tried.
Foxy in Wiltshire. So if I go into Wiltshire and I meet
Their friends, you'd hear them calling me Foxy. Yeah,
maybe I could start. Are we up for trying this, Foxy?
I'd rather you didn't.
On the next overlap.
Hey, nothing wrong with it. My boy's middle name's Fox. You got that in
It's
common.
a great name,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's, unfortunately,
It's not actually your name.
No.
On the next overlap, I'm going to say
Please.
Foxy's been talking. I'm going to actually get this going.
No, but I am. I won't acknowledge that, and that you'll look like an idiot.
We'll see. I think
That'll be the first
I
time.
reckon I could. I reckon I can get this going.
Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant.
So they call you Foxy, but aside from that, so you're 33 when you meet, and you've already talked about, I think, first of all, it's great how openly you're talking, because I know a lot of people watching this might be at that exact point in their life. They might have just met someone with kids. They might, have their own opinion on that. But before, obviously, you've explained brilliantly how you met and, you got to meet the kids, and it's fantastic. Before that day, before you meet your now wife, what was your view on children at that point? 33-year-old. Was it on your radar?
No.
Is it something you wanted?
No, not really. Now I wish desperately I'd had my own children. I do wish that. I feel like ultimately that's the point. That's the reason why we're here, is to create something that you could love in the way you guys love your kids. And luckily I've managed to get there with my stepkids, and some people might not, but I think I should have had my own kids earlier.
Was that ever a conversation that came up once you settled down?
My wife's so amazing, right? So firstly, the reason why I didn't is I had a long-term relationship before this one, and she was adamant she didn't want children. I was young, so I didn't really care. And then I was still of that mindset going into this relationship. But she said something to me the other day, because I brought this up a couple of times, like being quite, not upset that I didn't have kids, but sometimes, you see what other people have. All my brothers had kids now, and I've got lots of nieces and nephews and stuff, and you just can feel the love. And I don't know what that would feel like for my own, my biological kids. So my wife, I've been saying a lot talking about that relatively, not openly, but she's aware of it. And she said to me the other day that we can still do this if you want to.
I was going to ask that, and then I decided not to.
That's fine. You can ask what you like.
Did you? So with that in mind, then you're not an old man. You're totally capable, and you're in a situation where you could. You know how you're talking wistfully, as if it isn't an option to you, but it is.
It ain't, man. I'm 43. I feel like I'm past.
Do you know what, mate? Honestly,
Robert De Niro having him at 78, mate. If you can do it.
Yeah, and the geezer out of Rolling Stone.
If I was Robert De Niro, then I might consider it at 43. But I've got stuff to do, man. I've got stuff work.
Is it definitely off the table for you, or are you considering it?
Nah. I feel like I wanted to have done it. If that makes any sense.
You think you missed the boat on it?
I feel like it's gone. Yeah, I feel like it's gone.
I mean, there are the Robert De Niro example is a funny one.
Extreme, yeah.
But there are lots of examples of 44-year-old dads.
No, of course, yeah. No, I'm not. This isn't a slight on anybody else. I'm just telling you how I feel, and I feel like that. I feel like the boat is. I've lived through what it's like to be a part of raising two kids to this point, 15 and 17. I don't want the next. I don't think.
Yeah, you would be going back into the trenches.
Dangerous game.
And I don't know those trenches.
Yeah, you've never.
And they are, mate.
He's a war hero without ever going to war.
Yeah, he's got all the medals.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like to have you. And I'm like 40. Well, I know what I'm like without sleep now.
Also, mate, for your wife, she would have done.
Yeah,
she would have like.
I don't think it's fair on her.
She would have effectively been a parent
when
forever.
she says to you, "We can still do this," and I don't pretend to know what her attitude is towards it as an individual, but it sounds like an incredibly not selfless, because obviously I'm sure she has her own reasons and she'd love more children maybe, but like it sounds like it's something that she's prepared to almost do 4 years.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Which is why when she told me, I got so emotional about it, because like I was like, that is the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
Yeah,
and that's 10 years into our relationship. That's incredible. So yeah, it's a massively selfless thing for her to say, because her body has to go through that, which is a lot for, when you're.
Is this a real time? I feel like we're talking about something that's happening for you in real time.
Yeah, like literally, I said a month ago she said this to me.
Right.
So yeah, it was incredible, and that men often don't need much from their wives, I think. Like, but when you get sort of unsolicited affection, like just a hug from behind or a kiss on the cheek you didn't ask for, it came out of nowhere. For me, that's like fuel. I'll keep going for days off something like that. So for her to say something as big as that,
He was podcasting. He was podcasting till midnight that
night.
That's incredible. And I think it's also really important to say, like, we've talked about it on this pod before. When I was getting to around 30, and me and my partner now, but we broke up around the idea of having kids at first. We wasn't sure if I wanted them.
Really?
And one of the big things for me, and I had a very bleak view of the world at the time, but one of the big things for me was that at that time, I don't necessarily see it this way now, was that I saw the act of having kids as a really your own kids, as a really selfish, selfish thing.
I've been there.
Because I was like, oh, what, the world really needs another me.
Yeah.
And there's so many, my view was there's so many problems in the world. Why do I think, spreading my seed is going to solve anything when there's so many lives out there that you could impact that need a father figure or need guidance and things like that. And that's why we've never taken off the table adopting, and we're really keen on that in the future. But the reason I bring it up is I think, and I'm sure that people do look at it this way, but I think it's really important they do, is that what you have done is such an incredible thing, because you are a father figure. You are a type of father, stepfather within a family unit that exists. I know, but like that for me is a thing someone can do with their life that's incredibly noble, and I think it shouldn't ever be seen as less than. I can understand why you might think, I'd love to have my own children for X, Y, and Z, but I have so much respect for what you have done, because it's something that helps society.
It does take a very particular man. It genuinely does. Like, I was brought up by a stepdad, and that he had his own foibles. Like, he wasn't only a good example to me at all, but he did his best, and he was a good man. He was of that generation. He's just like it's just a different approach.
But quite interesting that Flav grew up in an environment that, non-traditional environment, if you like.
Yeah.
And that gave you the tools to say how you did and didn't want to do it yourself.
Definitely.
But when Rory grew up in that environment, well, actually, no, yours was when you had a partner, wasn't it? You had a partner who had a child, and you, off the back of that, decided you couldn't do it.
Exactly. That's what I thought was quite interesting. Did you know that you had the minerals for this?
No, not at all.
No.
Because
I didn't know, and my ex-girlfriend had a kid, and I got on very well with her, and obviously I had a very superficial relationship with her kid. But I knew very quickly.
How old was you?
How old was I? 24, something like that. I knew very quickly that I would never bond and this is not going to paint me in the most positive colour, I don't think, particularly when you consider that I had a good relationship with my stepdad. But I knew very quickly that I wasn't going to be this kid's father. I wasn't cut out for that. I needed.
But maybe at 33 you would have been.
Maybe I was young. I probably wasn't ready to be the father to my own kid at that age.
Weirdly, I was in the car. I was taking a boy to school this morning, and we were having this conversation. We were talking about a situation where, another kid probably doesn't have the most secure home life, and we were talking about how unfortunate that is and how difficult it must be for the kid. And then we were talking, and I was like, "Yeah, but remember when I came into your life, I was 33. I'd done a lot of living by that point, and I'd gone through living in households with step-parents, with step-brothers. So you're just equipped with that, and you're thinking, what would have been the best thing for me? What environment, if I could create one that was ideal, what environment would I have wanted to grow up in? And I grew up in two great households, step-parents that cared for me, and obviously my biological parents that loved me so much, right? It was a great household. Very, there were challenges in growing up with step-brothers, like fighting and stuff like that, but generally pretty good. So I can't complain, but there are bits like emotional connection that you generally a step-parent doesn't give you, and it's impossible to fake loving somebody. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking like, what if I don't immediately love these kids, what is the best kind of environment to bring them up in? And that's one, like when they're heard, they feel like they have a role in the family household, and that they're respected. And if you can get there, loved. And like I love them as much as I love my wife, as much as I've loved anything. So we was able to get there, but I think it's through that process of growing up in households that were from split families that gives you the tools in order to do that. And you might make the decision it ain't the right, and you did the right thing, Rory, by saying I can't do this. You did the right thing, mm-hmm. Because if you're growing up in a household where you might not feel that positive energy from the step parent, that's damaging. That's tough.
I think it's like a lot of things in life, right? There's good versions of it and bad versions of it, because you do. I think maybe even the media and films and all these sorts of things just like it always does, has a lot. Often will lean on the negative stories, which exist, but not necessarily the positive ones. And I've got a lot of friends who grew up in households like this, and some of them just speak so amazingly about the fact that they had 4 parents.
Yeah,
like, I got 4 parents. You only got 2.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? When done properly, it can be a superpower.
I mean,
think about what a parent does for you. It's expertise, it's knowledge being passed down, it's some sort of security, it's love. If you can amplify that and multiply that, it's an unbelievable gift.
They've got a father that loves them to bits, and they've got a step.
Have they preserved the relationship?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And do you have a superficial relationship with him then? Do you kind of see each other at sports days and shake hands and stuff?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
but do you assert yourself
more than
a bit?
that.
Do you kind of go?
No.
You kind of go like, just let him. Do you just let him know?
Let him know what?
Let him know on the handshake.
His hands are so big, and he's so.
Do you? Just a little bit.
No, not all, mate. Not all. I don't know. Like, what could possibly be gained by trying to man up or get a man point up. I'm 43, man. I'm well past all that bullshit. But that.
I call him a nickname. Just a slugger or something.
No.
All right, slugger.
Nothing like that. Nothing demeaning. Very, very, very respectful. And actually, very quiet. We could go for a pint with each other in the pub for sure. 100%. Yeah.
That's so grown up.
That's how it should be.
So adult.
But what's the worst thing for a kid to grow up in? Parents, specifically 2 men.
Friction, violence.
If there's
aggression. It'd be a nightmare.
The worst environment.
Do you know the day that England played Germany?
Yeah.
England beat Germany 5-1.
Right.
Remember that day?
Remember it vividly, yeah.
I went to a pub called the Lily Langtree in Abbey Road, Kilburn.
Yeah.
Abbey Road is in the Beatles Abbey Road. There's a pub at the bottom of it, like the Kilburn end, called the Lily Langtree. It's gone now. But I went there to watch the game, and my dad and my stepdad had a massive fight in the pub.
Oh, mate.
And I was crying.
Yeah.
I went to the pub that day to watch England, and those two just had the fight like you wouldn't believe in the pub. And I was literally watching it. I was crying my eyes out.
Yeah, I bet it's traumatizing. That kind of, especially to men, like watching 2 full grown-up men go for each other.
Both tough men. Both Irish descent, Kilburn men.
Right. Yeah. No. So that was important that nothing like that would ever happen, and that the kids would never feel anxious about my presence. That was there was no world where I would allow that to happen, and that involves spikes in tension with anybody in the house. And so no, there's never been any issue, and I've got massive respect for him, and the kids have a dad.
And that's a two-way street, right? You sounds like you've been really intentional about creating that safe atmosphere and protecting that, but equally he plays a part in that as well.
Massively,
right? He brings a certain energy to your.
Yeah, he could. I mean, any man could choose to behave in whatever way they want to, but there's never been a moment of it, and I'm sure it's not easy for him either. No. Because regardless of relationships.
Does he have other children? Do your kids have step siblings?
No.
Okay.
No.
That might make life a bit easier on some level.
Yeah, I think ultimately he knows how much I love them, and that's important to him. So, while I would have no chance in a fight, I think he at least respects the fact that I love his kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I think being candid, Alex knows this. Like, one of my biggest fears, and listen, this is maybe an irrational fear, and maybe it's an egotistical one, and it's not based in reality. But whenever Alex and I have had any sort of big arguments or anything, and if it ever comes to it, you're having this hard conversation, she knows my biggest fear. It's not my biggest fear. 'Cause I think the biggest fear is something happening to your kids, like health and things, which obviously is the worst. But I maybe I've evolved a bit out of this, but certainly when the kids were first born, like my biggest fear was the idea of another man raising my kids. I'll be honest, that's what I always felt about, and I've explored that and thought, what is it? And is it a me ego thing? Is it I feel like I failed thing? Like what is it that leads me to that thing? Because if you think about it, if I try and put myself in the position of your kid's biological dad, if you aren't in the house and they are living with another man, it's such a bad idea to have a bad relationship with that man. Like, for your kid's sake, it's such a bad idea. Like, your child or children are going to it's like anything. When they go to school, when they go to a job, we spend more time in that environment. If you're a father that lives separately, you're going to get a lot less time with your kids, just mathematically speaking, probably.
There is separation,
Yeah, or it depends on, obviously everyone's setup is different in terms of how many days they do here and there and things. But generally speaking, maybe traditionally, that step-parent, that stepdad is going to get a lot of time with your kids. And that's probably one of the things that creates this fear in me.
I can understand that.
But if you can have a good relationship with them, you're helping your children while you're not there, aren't you?
Yeah, I can completely understand what you're saying, Spencer. Like that, and I think a lot of fathers would feel that way. Especially because it means a breakdown of a relationship and everything. The normal world that you've created is gone, and then on top of that, there's a guy now bringing your kids up. So yeah, I mean, I've always been conscious of that.
Facilitating a positive relationship is only sensible. It's only good. It's only the correct.
It's not always possible. Like, but I've seen it where that hasn't been possible, and there has been a massive breakdown.
If you have to.
Yeah, and this, I mean, that's massively.
Part of that's got to be linked to the background of the mum and dad's breakup, right? As well, I imagine. Like, not to get into, it's not our business, but like in terms of. Are they on somewhat good terms?
Yeah.
Can they still hold conversation? Because often it goes the other way.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so difficult. Yeah. Hard. No, luckily they're good, and we're good, and we all of us together have managed to create something that is quite harmonious.
It's amazing. It really is, Flav. It's brilliant. And do you know what? A lot of people have been asking for you to be on this. We've got a lot of comments. You keep challenging this as if
I don't understand
it's like you're challenging it.
I imagine people have heard you speak about parenthood elsewhere.
Maybe
they know your friends. And
also, I'm kind of sitting there and listening to you two, and I'm thinking, why does anyone want to listen to this?
No, it's
did that not cross your mind at all?
I mean, I think that about basically everything that all of us do. But,
right,
but just to demonstrate why it was valuable to do. Okay. We got a dad diary sent in, and the dad diary says, "Hi gents, love the pod. Being a young dad of an 18-month-old, I'm 24. I'd love for you to have a guest on that's a co-parent. I appreciate neither of you are, but it would be good to hear insights on co-parenting and how that's navigated." And Flav, I think you've done an incredible job of answering that.
So can I ask a question? Because this is maybe my naivety. When people say co-parent, Do they mean parents that live separately, or do they mean a step parent is the co-parent?
A co-parent, I found out since because I actually Googled it because we spoke about this in a group. It just means
separate households.
Any
just two parents.
Just two parents. I don't
the
know.
Dad Diary here is intimating. I would suggest that's either
we've got
what you're doing,
what they're doing,
or what the biological dad and the biological mum are doing, as in they're both parents in a separate house.
Yeah. So there'd be two households. Yeah. Co-parenting is only a problem only a thing if they split up and then move to different houses and have a new relationships.
They're parenting. They're co-parents, basically not in a relationship anymore.
Right.
That's what it means.
Well, there we go. You've done a fantastic job on bringing the co-parenting story to the podcast. So thank you very much.
No worries, mate.
Well, Flav, I've absolutely loved hearing from you because I think it's such useful conversation.
Yeah, mate, you've got to come back on.
There'll be so many people.
It's so interesting.
I'd love to.
Yeah, they'd love to hear this stuff for sure. Because as I mentioned earlier, I think it's a huge part of society, a really important part of society, and maybe a conversation doesn't get had enough. But step parenting aside, the other thing I really want to talk to you about is actually just the age of your kids. Because every parent we've had on here so far has kind of been in the same bracket as us, or even younger with their children. Your kids are on that, on the verge of adulthood,
teen
really.
Adulthood, yeah.
And that scares the hell out of me, if I'm honest. In this version of society, I don't know what society is going to be like when my kids are that age, but I'd love to know how you tackle it. Like, what are you and your wife's sort of social media policies, phone policies? What do you think the future holds for them? Are you telling them to learn AI? I remember 10 years ago, it was like everyone had to learn Chinese, Mandarin, and coding. Now it's surely everyone's saying your kids have got to learn how to bloody work AI. I don't know, man.
I haven't even thought about that. But Spencer, you've been so successful because you'd think like that for your kids. I'm like, you guys can do what you want.
Do they have phones?
Yeah,
and they have total access to.
No, there's. I mean, we've got restrictions on the internet, so they can't access all of the horrendous stuff that's on there. But
like your videos.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, you remember I mentioned that my wife is super laid back.
Yeah.
It's the same process to that, is that you kind of have to trust them to navigate the world. And like I said, at 17, 15, they're not listening to us anymore. They're listening to other people. And anything, there is no, what do you think you can restrict a 17-year-old from doing? They're an adult by that point. And if you can't trust them at 17 to make right decisions, then you've not done your job as a parent.
No.
And I would say the same for the boy at 15, is that have we equipped him? Have we done enough so that he can make the right decisions at the right times? And the answer is inevitably going to be not 100%.
No.
There will be moments in the future where and they're both tested and they've got to make the right decision, and bumps in the road will happen. But as long as they know that, that we'll always be there for them and help them when they do hit these bumps, that's all that you can do. But no restrictions. They can do what they want.
Do you keep tabs on stuff? Have they got social media profiles? Are you on there? Are you checking what people are commenting on the pictures?
No, not none of that.
Do you follow them?
Yeah.
So you're aware of what they're
So the only thing
uploading.
I'm not aware of is Snapchat. I don't know. I don't know how to use it. I've never used it. I don't think it's 3 or 4 43-year-old.
I feel like that is the one where people are sneaking under the radar because they know we're not.
What are you worried
there.
about?
Well,
I'm worried about
Snapchat is.
I'm worried about.
But they're tiny.
Yeah,
and you're supposed to.
No, I'm thinking so. I think you made a good point there. I hadn't really thought about it before, which is when they get to that age where they're not going to listen. It's not so much about what you do now. It's probably about what have you done when they were 10. And if you've set them up for success, that when they're making their own decisions or they're not listening to you, you've given them a good head on their shoulders and they understand the world.
As much as you can. I think things like, pornography and stuff like that, that's a worry because of, I don't spend a great deal of time on it.
Sure.
I mean, we all dabble from time to time, don't we? But that's a worry, right? And that is it. But then I just think about when I was sort of 12, I was going down my parents' wardrobes trying to find VHS tapes.
Yeah.
But nothing's going to stop them.
Thing is, I do believe in
so much more.
I dabble into some mad shit.
No, but I do believe I see both sides to it. One part of me thinks, we make a massive deal about what's happening now, but there's always been issues, and it's just generation. You're going to get to our age, you're going to worry about stuff.
Yeah.
But I also think, when I was 15 or whatever it was, me and my mate were buzzing if we got a cutout of a Daily Sport, which was just
all you
a
need.
pair of boobs, right?
But now
Now they're like
It's mayhem
one
out
click of the mouse, they could be on a website seeing like extreme stuff. What does that do to your growing brain?
Terrible,
really
man.
damaging, really damaging. I don't think it's a healthy thing at all. And so that the kind of restrictions should be put in place as much as possible, but they will find a way to see things that they want to see, because
I think
we all
what you
would
said
have
at the
done.
beginning, man. Trust.
But
You've got to bring them up in a way where you can trust them to make.
Have you seen Adolescence?
Yeah, so I saw the first 2 episodes, but I found it very stressful.
Yeah, well, I imagine you would, because that's the thing. Like, you need to see more necessary to know.
Yeah.
Like the concept of that show. Did they not do enough? Were they terribly? Was that boy terrible? I know it's fictional.
My wife didn't want to watch it because it taps into, as a parent, some really sort of raw stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a great show, but I struggled with it massively, and so did she. And yeah, like, have you done enough? Who's responsible, and what they're going to be confronted with stuff in the world, and all the work you could possibly have done has been done. You don't get to rewind and do it again. So you guys have got great opportunities now to really worry about this over the last 10 years, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
But the other thing's like, it ain't just that. It's just like, when they go partying, what's going to be offered to them?
Yeah, that's the one.
So really a moral conundrum that I've come up that we've had to deal with is like, how much do you educate them about things like drugs?
Yeah.
Is it better?
At what age?
At what age? And is it better to equip them with as much information as possible, or are you normalising drugs? So, like, the point I'm making is,
yeah.
Do you want to understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no, totally. I'm
It's
thinking
terrifying.
about it in my own brain.
Because the second that you go zero tolerance, which is your natural reaction as a parent,
Not going to work.
yeah, exactly.
Well, I remember thinking about my own experiences. It's funny because looking back, I didn't realise, I was really naive to that whole sort of stuff, even in my 20s.
Really?
Like, I can remember, I now know, looking back, there was so much going on that I just wasn't privy to. And some part of me thinks, I missed out on a bit. And my mates, why didn't they get me involved in that stuff? And the other part of me thinks, it's my mum and dad never spoke about it. If they did, it was always like very much, we would never do that.
Maybe
so
that's
I
the
just
right
never
way.
considered it. I never considered it.
I don't know what the right way is.
I don't think there is one.
No.
If it's taboo, it becomes appealing. If you talk about it,
But
you normalise it.
It didn't.
Yeah,
offend
that's an example of it.
Yeah.
I think like there's also a parallel universe where I was just in a certain room at a certain time and saw some stuff going on and got involved, and I had a completely different journey. I just think it sort of passed me by. Yeah, I smoked a few cigarettes and stuff when I was like 16, 17. Thought I was cool for 6 months, and then grew out of it. And I'm not saying I've got mates that smoke. Like, it's nothing. That was my experience. One thing my dad has always said. My dad has always maintained that he's never smoked a cigarette or touched a drug in his life. And for so much of my early adult life, I always thought that was like a line that he would say to me to try and like, but he's adamant that it's the truth. And I'm just like, it's quite impressive, really, especially growing up when he did.
My dad has never. He said to me, I've never touched drugs. Mugs, what mugs? Drugs, mugs. Pricks doing drugs. And I'm like, well, nothing, Dad. No, never. He went, no, we used to, do these things. I think they were called blueies.
Yeah.
Something like that. Right. And I went, that's speed, Dad.
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
taking,
yeah.
You were taking speed.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Not drugs, though.
Well, there we have it. This has been perhaps one of my favourite ever episodes of Internet Dads. Flav, you've been a sensational guest. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Really, really appreciate you finding the time. You're the first person who's come on to actually discuss the stepdad and the role of a stepdad. So it's opened up a very interesting conversation on
hopefully you guys listening and watching enjoyed it, and obviously if you've got any follow-up questions and more dad diaries, get them in. But yeah, I just want to say thanks to Flav. I think your kids are in a really good hands, and I think it's great to hear. And I spoke earlier about my fear of someone else raising my kids. I would say if it ever comes to be, I hope, in my opinion, hopefully it doesn't for me, but if it does, I would want that other father figure to be saying the exact things you're saying. So I appreciate you. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back with another episode of Internet Dads soon. Don't go changing.
Next Thursday.